So the number of complaints filed against the state's judges has steadily increased over the past decade, hitting an all-time high of 2,025 in 2010. Nevertheless, only a single judge was actually removed from the bench last year, and this comes at a time when the judicial branch is under significant fiscal pressure, reducing courtroom hours and laying off staff. Meanwhile, the entity that is charged with keeping tabs on New York's jurists, the 11-member Commission on Judicial Conduct, is itself under fire, with some attorneys saying that it is too lenient and also too secretive. Well, joining me now is Robert Tembeckjian, the Commission's Administrator and Counsel. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Did I murder your last name?
No, you got it just
All
right.
right, very good. This is actually pretty fascinating because you were talking about a group of people whose job it is to sit judgment on other people, and the Commission's job is to sit judgment on them,
That's
more
right.
or less.
We
right?
judge the judges, basically.
Right. And it's a pretty important position, and one that, not surprisingly, some people really dislike. I don't know what else to say about that. Why do you believe that these numbers are going up as they have?
I think primarily because the Commission over the years has raised its profile, both on the Internet. Information is much more available to those who are seeking to redress grievances based on what happened to them in the courthouse. And because we've had a number of high-profile cases over the last several years, which tend to increase our public visibility. So people know where they can make a complaint about a judge. And the fact that the numbers are increasing, I think, just reflects more consumer intelligence.
Consumers of the legal process, right?
Well, more or less, right. I mean, everyone who goes into the courtroom becomes a consumer of the process in one form or another.
Do you think actually, you know, judges are always complaining about the fact that they have not gotten a pay raise since 1999, along with the state lawmakers. This past year, actually, it was decoupled. There's going to be a commission on judicial pay raises now.
Right.
Do you think that the fact that they have not received a pay raise somehow factors into their quote-unquote bad behavior or the increasing that because they're dissatisfied in some way?
No, I don't. Overall, I think the judiciary is a very hardworking and intelligent and competent and ethical group of individuals.
Right.
2 years ago, we did publicly discipline a judge.
Yep.
Who was encouraging other judges not to take action in cases where the law firm of a legislator was appearing in court, and he was promoting that as a tactic to get pay raises enacted by the legislature, and that was an unethical act which the Commission censured the judge for. Generally speaking, though, I don't see a correlation between the pay raise issue, which is very legitimate, and I think the judiciary deserves the raises, which are long overdue, and their behavior. I don't think there's any judge worth his salt or her salt who would fail to enact the duties of the office because of the pay issue.
Do you believe actually, I mean, just explain for viewers, if you would, the difference between censure and admonishment?
Both are public reprimands. An admonition is a milder public reprimand, and censure is a more severe public reprimand. And the distinction goes back to 1978 when admonition was private, a private reprimand, and a censure was a public reprimand. The legislature changed the law to make them both public, and the Commission renders the admonition as more mild than a censure.
That was actually the same year that the Commission lost the ability to suspend judges without pay for 6 months, right?
That's right. And also, most importantly, it was the year in which the law changed and our formal disciplinary proceedings, which were public, no longer remained so, and they are now confidential and have been since 1978.
And the Commission would like to change that. In both cases, would like to get back the ability to suspend without pay,
yes,
and then also the ability to open up these proceedings. Not a popular proposal among some judges, of course, who are not high on having people see the dirty laundry that is aired in public.
Well, that's true, and I find it ironic that there are a lot of judicial associations and the State Bar Association critical of the Commission for acting in secret, and yet the State Bar has not taken a position on whether our proceedings ought to be public, and the judiciary, for the most part, is against it. I must say that the Chief Judge, Jonathan Lippman, favors public proceedings for Commission disciplinary proceedings. That's right.
Yeah, but yet the commission has nevertheless come under fire, not only for its secretiveness, which is actually not something that you can control. You need the legislature to act.
Correct. The legislature has to act. And I must also point out that a judge, under the law, who is the subject of an investigation, has the authority to waive confidentiality and make the proceedings public. And in the 30-some-odd years since these proceedings have been confidential, and we've had over 750 formal disciplinary proceedings and about 7,000 investigations, only 12 judges have chosen to waive confidentiality. So I think that addresses the issue of where the judiciary stands on the subject.
But what about the idea of actually breaking up the commission in some way? So it would be more, I mean, there is this idea, I'm sure that most judges don't agree, but some attorneys believe that you've been too lenient in your treatment of judges. I mean, some of this stuff, and actually, and I hate to say it, but the report makes for fabulous reading, because when you look at some of the reports, it's actually a little bit shocking about judges who sit on high, and I know I'm going to get some complaints about this. And look, like you said, most of them are ethical and above board and take their jobs very seriously. However, you know, look, it's a situation where everybody stands up when you walk into the room. You are the person who controls your courtroom, and that makes some people feel like they're above the law. Judges
are enormously powerful. They determine custody, they determine freedom, who goes to jail, who doesn't go to jail. They have enormous power and authority, and I think that the commission, as is the case in all 50 states, which have some sort of an entity like ours to oversee the ethical behavior of judges, is a check. It's what keeps them accountable to the public for the enormous power that they do wield. It doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anyone, that judges think we are too severe, and the public thinks we're too lenient. And given those two extremes, my sense is that we've got it just about right, that we discipline those judges who have demonstrably violated promulgated ethical standards, have committed misconduct, but we exonerate those, the vast majority of those who are subject of complaints, who have not done anything wrong, and just happen to be the judge who ruled against someone who doesn't like that and wants to redress the situation. We're not the resource for that. Are you concerned that the chief judge particularly has spoken out about the cuts, the budget cuts that are coming down the pike? They're starting layoffs. Just yesterday, actually, pink slips went out and to about 70 people. Are you concerned that with the hours that will be curtailed in courtrooms, the fewer staff that will be available in the court system on an already overloaded system, particularly when it comes to family court, is going to lead to stressed out judges and more bad behavior? I'm concerned, as we all should be, about the cuts to the court system's budget and the fact that that might curtail services. I don't believe that it would propel any judge who's not already inclined to engage in misconduct or unethical behavior. There might be tempers that get short from time to time because of the day-to-day stresses of working in the courthouse, and typically when that happens and we're made aware of it, we tend not to come down very hard on the judge, who understandably every once in a while is going to show signs of stress. But if there is a pattern of misbehavior, if there is undue influence or bias or delays in rendering decisions, we have an obligation and a responsibility to enforce that, whether the court budget is appropriate or inappropriate to the task that they have to do. Our job is a different job, and it's an important job, and it's one that we will exercise regardless of the strains on the court system. Do you, would you give out the website so people know exactly where they should go if they have something to say to you guys? Yes, it's www.cjc.ny.gov. Okay, Robert Tembeck, I'm going to screw it up. Tembeckjian. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you very much for having me.